Landing on the moon was one of our species' greatest ever achievements. The amount of time, money and effort put into that project was substantial. Yet still, members of that very same species will decide not to rejoice in that achievement, but to prove that it never happened. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Before we begin today, a quick reminder again on the Simon Dan podcast. Coming out tomorrow, we delve into the world of psychic mediums and it is genuinely brilliant. Make sure you subscribe on your podcatcher of choice for that one. Right, back to today's video where Through the Aether has 100% undeniable proof that we never landed on the moon. Yes, I know, it never turns out to be undeniable, but we got to give him a chance.
Now I'm starting it, it's in at 1 minute 14 seconds into the video, but actually this is where it starts, where the video feed starts for the television. And there's the camera. So he was already, the astronaut must have already been down on the moon and went and set up that camera, obviously.
Nope. The camera was set up in the modular equipment storage assembly, an area on the exterior of the module. As you can see, it was easily lowered into position, ready for Neil Armstrong to descend onto the moon's surface.
You know, people have said this for years, like, you know, how did the camera just get set up? Well, he didn't just walk off and step on the moon. He was already off the moon, and he was already on the moon, and he went and he set up a camera, and then he did the, you know, the one small step for man thing.
So hang on, are you saying that he was on the moon? Because if he wasn't on the moon, as you suggest, then why wouldn't they have just got someone else to set it up? If it was filmed on a set, as you believe, then why would Armstrong have to get out and set up himself?
But here's the thing. Okay, right now he's stepping off and on the ladder. He steps up and he steps back, and he does that famous, you know, one small step for man. And I'm not going to leave that in here. Everybody's heard it. But my main point of this video is, I'm getting to the point now.
That's a relief.
The shadows. Okay, they're supposedly on the moon, and when you're on the moon, you've got the only light source, and NASA has admitted this, well, they stated this, that the only light source on the moon was the sun.
Oh dear, I fear he's walking into something here that he's not going to be able to get out of later.
Okay, so if you've got the moon, you've got the sun, everything is moving. The sun, of course, is stationary, and the moon rotates around the Earth, and the Earth rotates around the sun. Well, everything's moving. Okay, so my point is, as a point of reference of this video, the shadows from the sun never change. Excellent.
But can I ask, why would they?
Okay, and I'm going to prove that right now. That's the whole premise of this video is, I'm going to prove that the moon landing was a hoax, because the shadow from the sun supposedly never changes. Now you're saying, oh, you know, I know what you're thinking, but I'm going to prove it.
I'm sure you are. I mean, you probably can't discern the shadow's movement over the course of that footage, but it doesn't mean that the moon landing was a hoax. You see, the moon rotates once every 27 or so days, and this is of course around 27 times longer than it takes the Earth to rotate. Now, the astronauts of Apollo 11 were on the surface of the moon for around 21 hours in total. So seeing a change in the shadows over that course of time would be the equivalent of seeing the shadows change on Earth after 55 minutes. Now, whilst that is of course possible, if your camera is not in a fixed position, then it's unlikely.
Now what they're doing now is he's doing this or that. I'm going to fast forward to the point where the camera gets set up and stabilized, and that's at 42 minutes, approximately 42 minutes 5 seconds. We're 3 minutes into it right now. I'm going to fast forward this. I'm not going to bore you. Now we're going to take this to approximately 42 But I want to stop it a little bit early so you can see him move the camera around. So 25, 28 minutes, 29 minutes. Okay, there's 31 minutes. And let's see. Alright, 32 minutes. You can see them moving around. They're moving the camera around right now. 35 minutes into the video. You can see now 38 minutes. I'm going to hit play.
I cannot believe he's trying this. Let's allow him to debunk himself, shall we?
38 minutes now. He still hasn't stabilized that camera yet. And you'll see there now he's moving. There, the guy walked. I don't know if you saw it, but one of the astronauts, Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin, one of them walked over and he's moving the camera right now. So he's moving the camera. You can see that.
What is the point here? Honestly.
It looks like it's stabilizing right now. He's got a shot of the fake lunar surface. Now, a lot of people say that this is actually the desert, the high desert of Nevada, somewhere out in White Sands Missile or Nevada somewhere. And if you do your research and you look around enough, you can probably find old photographs. And he even says that it's just when he stands on the supposed moon, he says, "Oh, it's just like the high desert." He kind of slips there. Well, yeah, it's just like the high desert because it is.
Talk about grasping at straws.
Now, if you can see my Post-it note there, if you can see that, that's a yellow Post-it note, and I put it right where the shadow. Now, that's a reference, so you can see the shadow. Now, that black streak right above the Post-it note, that's a shadow, okay? And he's still moving the camera around. Alright, so I obviously watched this and I placed that Post-it note approximately right, perfectly on the bottom of that shadow.
Approximately perfectly?
Alright, he's got it stabilized. We're 42 minutes, in a few seconds. Now, here's my whole point. Now you see that shadow right there? That shadow is now here. He's leaving. He just set up the camera. He's got it stabilized. And he's walking back to the cracker box craft that they said that went to the moon, which is a total BS. If you looked at that, I challenge everyone to go look at high resolution color pictures of that craft and tell me that that thing flew around in zero gravity and extreme temperatures. Plus, it's so small. If you look at the guys, how small it is.
Yeah, because making a huge lander would not increase the risk at all, would it?
It's just impossible. Okay, so there they go. Another thing too I wanted to point out, you can see through the guy. Now that's the astronaut there. And the other astronauts moving around, you can see him. You can see right through him. How does that, if that's a camera, a solid object, you're not going to be able to see through it.
But you think it's being filmed in the desert. So why would you be able to see through the astronauts if it was being filmed on a desert?
It's just some kind of weird something going on here. Because if you look close enough, you can see right through the astronaut. You can see the objects on the other side. It just doesn't make any sense. But that's a whole other thing I'm not qualified to talk about.
That and how many other things?
All I'm going to do is talk about that Post-it note. Now look at the Post-it note. You see that kind of a rod right there by the Post-it note? That's a reflection. And that little dot that's above the horizon there, that's another reflection. I looked around. I thought that was something else, but just a reflection. Now back to the Post-it note. Look at the Post-it note. Do you see the shadow? Right above it is the shadow. The sun is to the left. And you can see how bright the astronauts' suits are, where the light is reflecting off on the left side, on their left sides. And if you look at the craft, you can see that bright point over there. Well, the sun, or I think it's an artificial light source, is shooting or beaming from the left to the right as we're looking at it here.
Okay, and let me guess. You think because the shadow isn't moving, that means that the moon landing was faked, yes?
And it's casting that shadow. Now look at the Post-it note. right above the Post-it note, that shadow is perfectly level, pretty close to right underneath the shadow. This is my whole point. I am going to fast forward this video, and that shadow stays exactly the same throughout all the time. Now, you're saying, well, so what? Well, what do you mean, so what?
I am, yes.
This is on the moon, supposedly. You're talking about something that's revolving around the Earth at a very high speed. And the sun, the Earth is also moving around the sun. So the Earth is moving around the sun, and the moon is moving around the Earth.
But the orbits around the sun aren't the main reasons why those shadows move. It's the rotation of the body you are on.
And the Earth's, you see what I'm trying to say? Everything is moving. So these shadows can't, there's no way these shadows can stay perfectly straight like that throughout this whole video. And anybody that's been outside, just look at a sundial. Go set a sundial out. I mean, it literally can tell you the time in minutes. I mean, so in other words, in 5 minutes, that sun has moved a little bit on that dial. You can see it. And for sure, within 15 minutes, you can easily see that sun move on that sundial.
Yes, because the Earth rotates relatively faster, doesn't it? On the moon, a sundial would be worthless because the moon rotates so slowly.
Now, I know this is supposedly the Earth, it's not the sun, and everything's different. I know. But listen, there's no way, everything moving, there's no way that sun would stay, that shadow would stay exactly the same for this amount of time. It's impossible. All right.
Well, let's find out, shall we? Let's move to the end of this video and see how long it was recording for.
Okay, it's at 42 minutes right now, and so we're 2 hours. So we started at 42 minutes. We looked at that Post-it note, and now, as you can see, it's 2 hours and 42 minutes into the movie. So we're talking an hour, let's see, 1 hour, 42, 142, 242, that's 2 hours.
Oh, bloody hell, this is cringe.
Now, anybody with an IQ over 40, okay, knows that in 2 solid hours, that shadow would have had to move.
On Earth, yes. But anyone with an IQ over 40 knows that the moon rotates slower than Earth. So let's figure it out, shall we? 2 hours on the moon is the equivalent of 1 minute and 40 seconds worth of rotation here on Earth. Now, can you pick up the movement of a shadow after 1 minute and 40 seconds from a camera that's set up so far away as that was in the image you're showing? I thought not.
Now, you go ahead and put it in the comments. I don't care. You can't tell me that shadow isn't going to move.
No, you can't. And it did move, just not very much. So I decided to let Mr. Through the Aether know this in his comment section as requested. And this was his response. Simon Dan, yeah, I get all that. Trust me. You think you're the first person to try and debunk this? The problem is that the moon, Earth and sun are still moving through space. Also, this zero shadow movement happens in every mission, some of them being over 3 hours on the moon. And yes, even the smallest diversion in shadow movement should 100% show up, no matter how minute. It does not. All of this is mute anyway, because we all know NASA never accomplished this.
At all. Somewhere. Up, down, sideways, I don't care, but it's got to move a little bit in 2 hours time. 2 hours. Come on, people.
You also have to take into account the direction of rotation here, by the way. If the camera is set up perpendicular to the sun's movement across the lunar sky, then the shadow will get longer and shorter rather than move left or right or closer or further away from the camera.
The moon landing was a complete hoax. This was done in a movie theater. Disney was involved. Disney was paid. Kubrick directed it. Stanley Kubrick directed this. And it's a complete false fakery. How do I know this? What's my theory? Look at the Post-it note.
Well, there we go everyone. A Post-it note debunks the moon landing. Have you ever heard of anything so preposterous? What am I saying? Of course you have. You watch this channel. Right, well, there we go. Another Tinfoil Tuesday, all done and dusted. What an absolute joke that one was. Pure delusion. I wonder if Through the Aether will respond. Time will tell, hey? But for now, thank you very, very much for watching. It's truly appreciated. It really is. If you enjoyed today's video, then please do drop a like on it and subscribe as well if the feeling takes you. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you all on Friday for Flat Earth Fail Compilation 21. See you then.